Broadcasting from the heart of downtown Hollywood. This is SoFloRadio.com. SoFloRadio.com presents CEOmanship, becoming a leader in today's business world, with your host, Steve Gordon, CEO of Gordon Partnership Group, an international business consulting firm specializing in CEO bootcamp, sales team training, as well as client growth and retention. Visit GordonPartnershipGroup.com. Gordon Partnership Group. Your success is our business. And now, here's your host, Steve Gordon.
Good afternoon, George. How are you, sir?
Good afternoon, Steve.
It's so good to be back in Hollywood, Florida. George, we have a really good show today. Although I say that every week, don't I? You do. I'll be the judge of that. Well, me and the audience. You usually are. Well, yes. So please be kind with your texts, your tweets, and your Facebook posts. But yeah, I think this is one you're going to absolutely love. We have so much to talk about. I am Steve Gordon, and I'm your host of CEOmanship on SoFlo Radio and SoFloTelevision.com. CEOmanship is the radio show for business owners, CEOs, and upper management. If you are a business owner, you're a CEO, and you'd like to be featured on CEOmanship, contact me at steve@ceomanship.com or steve@gordonpartnership.com. By the way, here's something new. If you'll visit CEOmanship.com after today's show, or actually you can do it right now, you're listening online, you can complete the little box that says subscribe to the Gordon Partnership newsletter. And once a month, we're going to pick one of our subscribers to be a featured guest on CEOmanship.
Really?
Yeah. Don't you like that idea?
I do like that idea.
You know what? We get so many people asking to be on the show, and the challenge is trying to pick that person because there's so many great people. And so I figured, what a great way to thank those who subscribe to my newsletter. By the way, if you don't subscribe, you cannot be in that selection process.
Right. And you notice that, right? You get a show, everybody wants to be on it. It's just like that.
It's amazing, isn't it, the way that works? You know, the other thing, too, is I would really appreciate if when there are posts up online that you like them, you share them, you tell your friends. And if you have a friend who is a business owner and you'd like them to have the opportunity to be highlighted or featured as a guest on CEOmanship, please do share and let them know they can subscribe and be part of this process as well. Don't forget, you can visit CEOmanship after the show, and you can download a copy of today's episode. You can watch or listen to any of the past episodes and shows that we've had in our archives section. And, of course, to make sure that you never, ever miss a show, please visit iTunes and the podcast library and search for CEOmanship. And,
sure.
And you can subscribe. And the best part is that show automatically, as soon as it finishes airing live here, it gets downloaded into your pod.
And if they subscribe to the YouTube channel, they get an update. They get a little email as soon as the show is posted on YouTube.
And tell them, where would that YouTube channel be?
It's youtube.com/SoFloVision is our YouTube companion. We're out there. We just get on everything.
I love that. You know what? That's great. And of course, if you're one of our subscribers and you're a guest on the show, all of our guests, all of our friends, both on SoFlo Radio, SoFlo Television, your guests, your mailing list, and of course my list of associates, all get contacted and will see your show on our show. So thank you. Over the past weeks, you know, we always get contacted about people interested in having someone from the Gordon Partnership Group come to speak to them, either do some coaching, do some one-on-one, maybe even a keynote speech. I am going to also let our readers, those who are subscribers, know about a very, very special program that I'm doing, a coaching program. But it is only for our subscribers. So please, don't forget, go to CEOmanship and fill out that little, I would like to subscribe to your newsletter. We don't bombard you. We just give you copies of the past shows, maybe some tips each week on how to grow your business, both your personal life, your personal business growth, and maybe something special that only is available for our subscribers. So please don't forget to do that. We really appreciate you. On Facebook, it's Gordon Partnership. Instagram, Gordon Partnership. Twitter, it's Follow Steve Gord. They couldn't put that last O-N on Twitter. There's just too many characters. Follow Steve Gord. LinkedIn, please search for Steve at Gordon Partnership or Steve Gordon and Gordon Partnership. And again, CEOmanship and Gordon Partnership are our websites. So how are you since last week?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful. I love living in Hollywood in South Florida. I love the palm trees. It's why it's incorporated into the logo. I like what they symbolize.
What do they symbolize,
They
George?
symbolize it doesn't freeze here. Because
For those of you just listening, I just went to go take a sip of water.
Yeah,
I thought I had a 5-second break, and George, you had to say that.
I'm good at that timing.
That was
Well,
perfect timing.
Apples don't grow here because it doesn't freeze. Different plants require different climates, and that's our thing. Palm trees don't grow wherever it freezes. They can't handle that. So if you look out your window like we can right now and see palm trees, it means that you don't ever have to worry about sliding into the car in front of you on black ice. And I like
there
that.
are other
And all the
issues about
things,
driving
your
in
pipes
Florida, though.
freezing and the potholes and all of the other things that are associated with living in the northern climes, which I've done. I've done my time, and no, thank you. It's a nice place to visit, but I would like to live here right now. Thank you. I feel
glad.
great. I feel great every day I wake up in South Florida.
Today we're going to speak about some tips on starting your own business. I received a lot of emails recently on questions like, I'm interested in starting a business, or I've had a business but I'm trying to start something new.
Sure.
And what would you suggest to a new business person who had an idea and or maybe didn't even have an idea? And so that's where we're going to go today.
Great, because I can do the what not to do part of that.
We've had that over the last several months.
How not to start a business.
Yes, well, and that's fine. We could do that together. I have to tell you, speaking of being in Hollywood, Florida, though, before we get to the show, the meat of the show, I thought this would be it. I thought this week, driving to the studio, all right, we're in basically April, and we're at the point where I thought all the snowbirds would start kind of heading back, right?
They have not.
No,
They
because
have not. They're lingering.
No, because there's snow up in the
It's
Northeast
still,
again.
I know, it's still.
Oh, they're getting blasted.
Usually there's no overlap like that. It's already hot here.
So I don't want to upset my northern listeners, but so this morning I decided, actually last week, I decided that in addition, that I love to ride my bicycle every
Yes,
morning
indeed.
up on Jupiter Island. It's great. It's a pleasure to watch the sun come up as I'm riding. But now I've incorporated, I'm doing like my own biathlon. So now I come home
Yeah.
and I now swim.
Okay, great.
So
afterwards,
so I ride, and
great
then
way
I
to
swim.
cool off. Sure,
Right. Well, not even cool off. I actually do laps. I'm not like one of these, older folks doing the water aerobics.
I'm sure
yet.
it's refreshing
Soon, but
after
not
a
yet.
nice bike ride to dive into that water.
So I had an amazing week.
Great.
I mean, just an amazing week. So when we first started this show, and I came to you early on, I said, I have what I'd like to refer to, for lack of anything other term, is a bucket list of people that if I could really reach for the stars, that I could have them on this show as guests.
Okay.
And that one was Tom Hopkins, and Tom's already been on the show.
Correct.
And there were 5 people on this list.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm a very, very big believer in if you put it out there, and what I mean by put it out there is you talk about it, you
Right.
ask for it, you have to let people know, you network, you communicate, and somebody knows somebody. The world of 6 degrees of separation is far smaller. I believe it's about 3 degrees now with the internet and everything else. So one was an unbelievable young man. I say young because he's, I believe, 32 right now. His name is Nick Vujicic.
Okay.
Not an easy name to pronounce.
We had a conference before the show about it.
You weren't supposed to tell our listeners that. Okay, so for all of you listening and watching live right now, it is true. We went to make sure I didn't trash Nick's last name, and hopefully I didn't.
Well, it's only polite. I do that often with guests, and better to remove all doubt.
Absolutely. So Nick is an incredible human being. He was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia. When he was born, he was born without limbs, and when he was about 10 years old, for those of you looking online now, you're watching the show, you'll see some photographs of Nick. He was so depressed and distraught about the teasing that he went through as a child, and trying to figure out why he was quote unquote different than other children, that he actually tried to end his life by drowning himself in his bathtub. But after several attempts, he realized that he didn't want to leave his loved ones, his parents, with the burden and the guilt that would result from taking his own life. And he says that he couldn't do it to him. So later on, actually it was a janitor in his high school who inspired him to start speaking about both his faith, but mostly overcoming adversity when he was 17 years old. And over the next couple of years, he spoke just a dozen times.
Okay.
To small groups. But one time, he spoke in a public school, and this was a game changer, a life changer for Nick. And he was talking to a group of high school girls, and he noticed within several minutes that many of these young girls were crying, and all of a sudden, one girl raised her hand, and I've heard Nick tell this story so many times, and she said out loud, "I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but may I come up and hug you?" Now you have to remember, here's someone who's been chastised himself and made fun of himself for not having arms and legs, and obviously being physically different than all the other children in school. In fact, he says he's never seen anybody up at that point who had the same physical situation as he did. And she came up, and in front of this entire auditorium, she hugged him, and she whispered into his ear. She whispered into his ear. She said, "Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No one has ever told me that they loved me and that I'm beautiful the way I am." And that gratitude inspired him to move on. And now he has spoken, and my last notes say 44 countries and over 2,000 times that he's spoken. And the reason I'm mentioning this now is that I saw Nick, who I've met before, at a very, very intimate gathering, a small gathering up in Jupiter, Florida, at Jupiter Inlet Colony. And he has a new initiative that we're going to talk about in a second, which is an anti-bullying initiative. And he's done some unbelievable things in the school systems across the United States. Now, he's since moved to California.
Okay.
Where he has both his outreach ministry, but he also has this organization, and he's working very, very closely with a group in Florida called Stand Strong Florida. Now, what I'd like to do is, before I introduce, I have a friend who's on the line with us, but before I introduce him, I thought for those people who don't know who Nick is, we've loaded up a quick video introduction. And so those of you listening can hear the introduction. There may be a couple of times where there's music and no words. That's okay. And for those of you watching, you'll get to see this video introduction. And if you don't know who Nick is, you will absolutely fall in love with him as a human being and his mission. And then when I come back, I want to introduce a good friend and a man with an unbelievable mission and purpose. His name is Roy Moore, but I'll bring Roy, if you'll stand by for just a couple of minutes. I want to play this quick video, and then we'll go right to you, Roy.
I wasn't ready. No arms and no legs, but I'm very thankful that I have my little chicken drumstick here. People freak out when they see me for the first time. It's so cool. I was at a water slide all by myself. Everyone obviously at the bottom of the slide is looking up and waiting for other people to come down, and here I come, and they're freaking out. They're like, you know, like this. And I was so tempted to look at myself and go, what happened? You know? There were times where I sort of looked at my life and thinking, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. And you keep on concentrating on the things that you wish you had or the things that you wish you didn't have. And you sort of forget what you do have. And there's no point, I believe, in my life where I wish I had arms, legs, I wish I had arms, legs, I wish I had arms, legs, because wishing won't help. But what I've seen in life are just a couple key principles. And the first thing that I've seen is to be thankful. It's hard to be thankful, man. I tell you, when I was 8 years old, I sort of summed up my life and thought, I'm never going to get married. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to have a life of purpose. What kind of a husband am I going to be if I can't even hold my wife's hand? It's a lie to think that you're not good enough. It's a lie to think that you're not worth anything. can't feel my hand. I love life. You know, so many people come and say, how come you smile so much? And I'm like, well, it's a long story. But it's very simple at the same time. You see, it's very hard to smile sometimes in life. There are things that happen that you don't know and you don't understand, and you don't know if you're going to get through it. You know, you go through your storms in life and you don't know how long this storm is going to be. And today I want to share with you some principles that I've learned in my life that you can use in yours. Being patient is beautiful. I tell you, it's the hardest thing. But I realize I may not have hands to hold my wife's hand. But when the time comes, I'll be able to hold her heart. I don't need hands to hold her heart. You know, it is scary to know how many girls have eating disorders. It is scary to know how many people are just angry at life because of their situation at home and angry at others. It's scary to know how many people actually feel like they're worth nothing. Every single girl right here, right now, I want you to know that you are beautiful. You are gorgeous just the way you are. And you boys, you're the man. On this DVD, I share my experiences in life of how I've overcome challenges and seen a new, fresh perspective in life. To be thankful, to dream big, and to never give up. I speak to children, youth, and adults about key issues and principles that I've applied in my life that has given me the strength to conquer all that comes before me.
So that is Nick. And the reason, again, that Nick was in Jupiter, Florida, speaking with a very small group of folks this week, was that he's got a very, very important initiative that he is personally spearheading, or I should say certainly in conjunction with some incredible people. And one of those incredible people is the president and the founder of an organization called Stand Strong Florida. Roy Moore, you are that person. Roy, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking some time out of your day to share with us a little bit about this project and how important it is to every youth in America. And thank goodness that you were able to bring this to the state of Florida. So thank you. So, Roy, you originally came out of, I guess, traditional business. You had some experience. You were, I believe, a business owner. Maybe since this is a business show, you can tell our audience a little bit about what your experience was in the business world.
He's gone.
Okay, so I think we just lost Roy for a quick second, and that's okay. We'll bring Roy right back. But meanwhile, George, I want to tell you to see how good you are at multitasking. Well,
very.
While we try to bring Roy back, I want to say that it was an incredible opportunity to be with such a dynamic human being. My wife Lori, who calls into the show and is always part of the show, and I had the opportunity to spend a fair amount of time speaking with Nick on a one-on-one level, and then the following night he was speaking at a church, the DeQuesta Baptist Church in DeQuesta, Florida. And I have to tell you that while I've met Nick several times in my life, I saw a side to Nick that I've never seen before, and he was funny, he was engaging.
Oh, he's got a lot of. He's like does stand-up comedy. It's not just motivational speaking. He's a funny guy.
He is a funny guy, and if he said some incredible things that night. But afterward, my oldest daughter, who has been on, we talked about in the show. Her name was Taylor. Taylor was there that night, and she had an opportunity to sit with Nick as well. And she walked out of there having had a moment to speak with Nick one-on-one. And, it's amazing when you see somebody dynamic from afar, like on a stage, it's one thing. But when you have the opportunity to meet somebody who has an incredible presence and you are literally shoulder to shoulder, and you're sitting there and you're looking eye to eye, and you have those, even if it's just a minute or two. She walked out, and I want to tell you that really I believe that Taylor was a changed person because of the unbelievable persona and what comes through in the vibe when you have an opportunity to speak with Nick. So, okay, it looks to me like we have Roy back. Roy, are you with us?
I am indeed. Sorry about that, Steve. It just clicked off on me.
Things happen. That's all right. And the best part about this is we just keep going. So, anyway, I started to mention earlier, I think right before, but I was mentioning that you came out of corporate America. You pretty big positions in your life. So I don't know if you want to elaborate, but maybe you want to tell the folks who are listening today sort of a little bit of your bio, and then what turned in your life. How do you go from being really a super corporate human being to heading now this incredible nonprofit? And maybe after that, if you want to tell everybody a little bit about Stand Strong Florida and what that mission is.
Sure. So listen, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show today, and really tell you what, following somebody like Nick, when you sort of hear that track going through, I mean, you can appreciate how he is such a gifted communicator. Really, my background is such that after I have an undergraduate BBA and a graduate MBA, and spent some time consulting with Global 500 companies for about 4 years with a management consulting firm. And after that, I spent 25 years sort of being a serial entrepreneur, buying businesses, building businesses, and then trading them. My last business was a smart grid business, and we sold it to Toshiba, or specifically a sort of multi-billion dollar global smart grid subsidiary called Landis & Gyr. And at Landis & Gyr, I served as SVP and Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer there after selling the business to them. And,
I think we had a little challenge on the phone line again, but let's see if that comes back, or maybe
there it is.
We lost you for a split second.
Okay. I started thinking that
and there we go.
It's going to be one of those days.
It's going to be one of those days.
There's nothing. Okay, there he is.
I think we may have lost him again.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I did.
Anyway, so
no idea why.
We're having a little bit of an audio issue, and perhaps we can get you to come back.
Yeah, it's one of our phones, and I don't know who it is because the internet's working. So,
you know what I'm going to do?
Take a break.
I am going to invite Roy to come back in and be a guest on our show right here in the studio, and that's all. Because the story is great, but let me just say that Stand Strong Florida is an organization that is trying to make people aware of the issues related to bullying in schools and the number of suicides of children, young people, and some of the times we're talking about people who are successful, getting good grades. They're doing well in school. They're athletes. They're in school plays. They're the kind of kid that you would never ever think would be going through personal turmoil or maybe being bullied. But this is such an important organization. I believe. Right back one more time. Let's see if we could try one more shot here. So there you go.
Okay, Steve. Yeah, and I'm sorry. I don't know if we have an IP conflict or what between us, but so I think where I settled out was sort of transitioning from corporate America into something where I was moving from the currency of sort of green patriots to the currency of hearts and lives. And it just struck me that when I started understanding more about the difficulty in this particular case about bullying and suicide-related items, that I felt like something had to be done. There is a CDC teen risk behavior surveillance report that's published once every year in the summer, and they've done it for over a decade. And once I became aware of the level of difficulty or level of issue that bullying and suicide pose to our kids, it was compelling to me, and I felt like I needed to take the experience and skills developed in corporate America and apply those to something whereby we could create a movement that would hopefully reverse this trend. As an example, if you look at the number of kids bullied on school property in the last 12 months, at least at the time of the survey, it's 19.6% across the U.S.
You're saying that 1 out of every 5 students has been bullied while at school?
On school property in the last 12 months. Yep.
That's
it's
shocking.
a huge number. It's a huge number. Let me give you another one. If one of the questions is, have you seriously considered attempting suicide during the previous 12 months? Across the U.S., the number is 17% of our 9th through 12th graders have seriously considered suicide in the last 12 months. As a matter of fact, 13.6% have made a plan. 8% actually attempted 1 or more times. And 2.7% of our kids, of our 9th through 12th grade kids, our high school kids, required a doctor or a nurse to recover from a suicide attempt. But if you look at 8%, and we have 25 million some odd kids, I mean, that's 9th through 12th graders in the U.S. It's about 2 million kids that are trying to end their life every year. And to me, that was just absolutely unacceptable.
That is shocking to me.
It's shocking, and it's a heartache. And, you know, in some ways, I almost feel, I don't know, it's obviously not intentional because I think as a country we love our youth. And but at the same time, I almost feel like there's this I don't know, indifference, thinking that, you know, high school is the same thing that high school has been. You know, I'm in my 50s and thinking that it's the same that it was back then, back in the day. And the reality is these kids feel a lot of pressure. They're bullied, as I shared. As a matter of fact, I mean, you know, they're bullied such that they will miss school because they're scared on the way to or from school. It's about 1 in 10 will miss school every month as a result of that. And it's just one of those things where what I'm hoping to do in our case at Stand Strong Florida is shine a big light and give visibility to this data and this information about how our kids are in many ways suffering, and to begin the dialogue that says that you have importance, that you have purpose, and that as an adult community, as those who are custodians of our kids' future, that we care, and we're trying to reach out and touch their lives.
Well, I heard you speak the other night, and you certainly touched the hearts of my wife and myself, and I just want you to know that we are right here with you, and you know, anytime we can give you a platform to talk about what you're doing. Now, I don't know how much we can talk about yet, and I don't want to give it all away, but we did tease a little bit about the fact that Nick will be coming back to Florida in November. And can we talk a little bit about this, or should we hold it off till you come into the studio, or until everything's firmed up?
Well, I can give you just a sort of a thumbnail sketch of what we're doing, and then we can you know, sort of save some of the specific details till later. But the upshot is that Stand Strong Florida will provide either live or through simulcast Nick Vujicic's message of bullying and suicide prevention to 7th grade through college level kids, to about 500,000 to 700,000 kids in the state of Florida. And by providing that message, Nick is a catalyst. He's someone that gets the kids to reconsider what they're doing if they're a bully, and if things are going well for you, to engage your friends if you see something, to say something. And for those kids and children who are in a dark place, it gets them to unpack the secret, to raise their hand, to reach out and say, I need help. And that's what we're about, so that when they reach out on the heels of Nick's message, when they reach out, that we are able to engage those kids through a variety of forms and connect them with services and agencies and people that want to see them understand the value that they have they should have for themselves, and that they do have to us as parents and as a community. So that's the headline in terms of what we're doing at Stand Strong Florida. Our mission is to save lives, and we believe that we're going to do that, just as in Indiana we were able to do with 10 kids through 911 interventions, actually saving their lives on the heels of an event that went to 300,000 kids.
Well, I know that I'm speaking for everybody who's listening today, and for George and myself.
Right on.
I want to just say personally, thank you for everything and for giving your time to such a great cause. Roy, I'd love to invite you to come in and have an hour with us and really give the details and some more history and talk about some of the things that people can look forward to in Florida. Would you come back, and would you be a guest in the studio when we can arrange it?
Certainly, that would be wonderful. I'd welcome the opportunity.
Well, we would too. Folks, Roy Moore, who's president and founder of Stand Strong Florida, a great organization. Can they find you online right now? Where would they find you, Roy?
Yes, standstrongflorida.com.
Standstrongflorida.com. Get involved. If you have any connections in the school districts, or if you have connections, maybe political connections, I'm thinking, if I'm not overstepping my bounds, I would think that would help you with this cause.
It would indeed. As much help in the state as possible. The endorsements help us incredibly in terms of getting schools to agree to broadcast Nick's message.
Well, great. So those of you listening, if you have any of those contacts, please contact me directly at steve@ceomanship.com or through my website, or you can go to standstrongflorida.com and contact Roy directly. Roy, I'll be in touch with you personally, and we'll pick a date real soon to have you in the studio, and we'll really get this message out in a big way because it's so important. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to call in.
Very good. Steve, George, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Goodbye.
George.
Steve.
This is CEOmanship Radio on SoFlo Radio and Television.com. We'll be right back.
More CEOmanship with Steve Gordon next on SoFloRadio.com.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
I heard you had a new karaoke gig.
I do have a new karaoke gig. It's at a wonderful location, Sea Breeze Bar and Grill in Davie.
What kind of place is that?
It's a family-friendly restaurant, and they have 18 flat-screen TVs, a pass-through indoor-outdoor bar area, and a beautiful covered patio.
Besides your Tuesday karaoke show, what kind of events do they have there?
Wednesday is open mic and wine night.
Is that when I can go and wine?
No, it's when you can go and buy wine for 50% off. That's not just glasses, that's bottles as well. Thursdays is trivia night, 7 to 9.
What about happy hour specials?
Happy hour is Monday through Friday, 4 to 7.
I'm assuming they have really delicious foods and maybe some food specials?
They do have food specials. Actually, 11 specials for lunch that are $6.95, and that's 11 to 3. Saturday and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., they have breakfast.
I'm assuming they have a website where you can go and find out more information and hours and their calendar?
Absolutely. They have a website that includes their specials, their calendar, upcoming entertainment, everything.
You're going to tell them the website, or you want me to?
You tell the website.
I was looking it up. It's seabreezebarandgrill.com. And what I discovered, and you're leaving out the most important part, is all the beers. You know, they have 46 beers there, I noticed, from their website.
Yes.
Including 20 on draft and a lot of craft beers that are really exciting and trendy. They have Inland Monk in the trunk and Dirty Bastard in the bottle.
They do.
Among others. They have several Sweetwater. They have Funky Buddha beers. They have a lot of beers there. So for those craft beer lovers out there.
They're a full liquor bar, so whether you drink beer, wine, or liquor, they've got you covered.
They're at 4995 Southwest 148th Avenue in Davie. I'll be seeing you on Tuesday for your karaoke show. What time does that start again?
Karaoke is 6:30 to 9:30 every Tuesday.
At the Sea Breeze Bar and Grill, 4995 Southwest 148th Avenue in Davie.
By the Glass.
By the Glass is a show about beverage culture.
Brad Hubbard.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the dots on how everything works together. It's really all about how we enjoy things, how we enjoy life, and how beverages play a big part in that. I'm going to bring in people that are going to display their aspect of the culture. I'm going to bring in people that are going to show you different products. We're going to look at places where people go to consume these beverages and how they all interact. Things are built around the actual beverage itself.
By the Glass. Thursdays from 6 to 7. Only on SoFloRadio.com.
Now, back to CEOmanship with Steve Gordon on SoFloRadio.com.
We're back. Wow, that was really great, Roy. Excellent. Really, thank you for calling in, Roy Moore. And Looking forward to having Nick Vujicic on our show.
Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be
Be
great.
excited.
So I started the show by saying that we've had a lot of people request information on how they can sort of pick a business to start. Like they'd say to me, I want to be in business, but how do I get started? What are some of the things that are so important in starting that business? So I just want to run through a handful of things that I wrote down the other day that I think are so important to not only having a successful business, but being happy in that business. Because I think what happens often, George, is that people start a business because they think it's the right business to be in. They go, oh, well, computer software is big
They
right
see
now.
an opportunity or a demand or something. Is that what?
Yeah, but it may not be something that they really enjoy, and all of a sudden they realize they're locked into something. And you know what? You get what we call the Sunday night blues. Do you know what those are, George?
Sure. Is that like a pizza hangover?
It is not a pizza hangover, but the Sunday night blues are when you sit up on Sunday nights and you go, oh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to getting there. I don't want to go to the office. This isn't fun. So let's start with Steve's tip number one. And that first tip is you got to do what you enjoy. All right. So what you get out of your business in the form of personal satisfaction and, of course, financial gain, stability, and enjoyment is the sum of what you put into your business. So if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then in all likelihood, I would say it's pretty safe to assume, George, that you're not. That will be reflected in the success of your business or subsequent lack of success if you want to look at it the other way. All right. So I would even go so far as to say if you don't enjoy what you're doing, chances are you probably will not succeed.
That makes sense. But a lot of people don't enjoy what they're doing. I mean,
Well, you know what happens too? I think that people get locked in. One of two things happen. I know this happened to me originally. When I was the age to be in school, in college, it was the very, very beginning sort of the computer era, as it sort of may be. And my parents said, wow, you know what? That would be really something great to study. So you should be an engineer and a computer programmer.
Sure. Makes sense.
Well, it does unless you're incredibly type A and entrepreneurial. Although, look, I guess Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, took it to the next step. But for me, I graduated from college. By my junior year, I sat there in a cubicle and I thought, this is so not me.
Right.
But I would never, unlike the students of today, and I know that parents listening who are business owners right now, those of you who have children in college, you'll get this. Unlike the students of today, where they call up like 3 different times during the 4 years. Or hopefully 4 years during college, and they go, I'd like to change my major again. There was no way I was making that phone call to my parents. So I was locked and loaded as a computer science electrical engineer major. Now, it had some benefits because I am a logical thinker. And so from that perspective, it was a good major, but it wasn't where I should have been. So we get pigeonholed, and then all of a sudden you get stuck in a career because that's what you studied. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 30 or 40 years old and you go, wow, I do not like this. But now what do you do? So maybe you go back to school, but maybe you have kids and you can't afford to do that. And so if you're thinking about starting something, start with something you really like, and then let's try to build a market around that. All right. The other thing is that you've got to take your new job seriously.
Okay.
A lot of people, George, will start a business while they have a job. And by the way, if you do that, my counsel to you is this. If you're working for somebody else, please be the best employee that you can be during the day.
Right.
And then on your own time, start to build your other business.
Sure.
Because it's not right. And you don't want to get fired, and you don't want to, because that could put you under a lot of pressure. It's a lot easier to start a business when you have other income coming in, and you're not under the pressure of having to
Sure. Well, the golden rule applies. If you're thinking about starting a business, you don't want an employee of yours to be doing that, to be dividing their time and their attention.
That's right.
So.
In fact, quite often, for one of my particular businesses, I'm often looking for great salespeople. And I will meet some terrific people. It could be in a store where I'm getting great service. It could be at a restaurant where I'm getting great service. I could just be talking to somebody somewhere, and you get a vibe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I always tell them, I may say things like, George, you know what? I'm looking for some great people for one of my companies, and you seem to have the right personality to fit with this particular corporation. However, as much as I'd like to talk to you right now, you're working for somebody else, and it's not fair to that current employee that I take their time to talk to you. So I would like to trade numbers. And I always say, look, here's my card, my number, but give me your cell phone number as well. Because here's what I've learned. If I give them my card, a lot of times they just forget about it, lose it, or they get afraid to call because they're thinking, what is this? So I will often talk to people and give them my number. That's a little tip, by the way. To get their number as well.
Sure.
And the other thing is if I say to you, George, when's a good time for us to speak? And you say, well, I get off work at 4, and so how about by the time I get home and I'm settled in 4:30? If I say to you, we're going to talk at 4, great, George, I'll call you at 4:30.
Okay.
You had best bet I will call you at 4:30. Don't sit there as a business owner or a recruiter or a sales manager trying to hire somebody or any kind of business. If you tell somebody you're going to make a phone call at a certain time, do it.
Okay.
I'm a very, very big believer in you got to keep your appointments. So let's just say I'm doing something and I can't make that 4:30 call. I'll let you know. It's disrespectful. If I don't call you at 4:30, like I told you, it says my time is more valuable than yours, George. And while it might really be, I'm just kidding.
It might very be. No, but nevertheless, but it's a relative thing. My time is valuable to me.
That's right.
And you're wasting someone's time. Your life is made out of time.
And if you're going to start a business relationship, doesn't it behoove us to start that relationship?
I love that word.
Behoove?
Behoove. Yeah, I don't know where it came from, but
maybe next week you'll have that answer.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, right. Look it up. So doesn't it behoove us to want to start that relationship with a level of respect immediately?
It does.
And by the way, it goes the other way too. I tell people all the time, it's okay if you can't make our appointment, but please let me know. Because there's nothing that irks me more. Well, I'm sure there is something, but it's way up on my irk list.
Yeah. You ought not have to say that to someone. Please
let
me know.
You would think not, George, but you do. And I often just say to people, look, if something's going to come up that causes you to not be able to keep our appointment, all I ask is that you call me. In fact, here's my cell phone. You can text me, all right? I'm telling you, with young people, they don't call. Right, so text me, but let me know before. I'll say, George, I've got to get in my car, at 3:30 to make our 4:30 appointment if it's a face to face. So all I ask is that if something changes between now and 3:30, just let me know, so I don't have to get in my car. I'll find something else to do. It's okay, right? But if I don't hear from you by 3:30, I'm going to assume we're on. I also am very big on confirming. And by the way, if I confirm an appointment with you, the other thing I'll say to you is, George, I know we have an appointment at 4:30. I'm going to confirm tomorrow by about 2:30.
Okay.
If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to assume that we're off.
Okay.
Right? So,
yeah.
Because time is money.
Sure.
Right?
Well, in Florida, that's how you say no to people. And that's not a rule that I wrote. I just noticed that when people don't want to do whatever it is that you want, they just don't call you. They just don't show up. That's how you say you're not interested, is you just disappear. Bad, which is a bad thing. In my book.
Here's the deal. You never know
right
when you're going to come across that person again.
Right.
And so and maybe today it doesn't seem like a big deal.
It happens.
But you might, come across that person in another environment. It could be a social environment. You could be young and want to date my daughter. It could be anything. It could be somebody, who's looking for a job down the road 5 years from now.
Sure.
And I remember that, you stood me up.
I got a good memory too.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me. Believe me.
I do.
So, take what you do seriously, and you can't expect to be effective or successful in any type of business unless you truly believe in your business and, of course, in whatever goods or services that you are selling. A lot of business owners fail to take their own business seriously enough in the beginning and they get easily sidetracked. You know, you don't want to do that. Also, don't let other people pull you off your mountaintop. So what do I mean by that? You're going to run into a lot of people when you are starting a business. There will be people who say to you, George, what are you doing that for? You have a good job.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Why would you want to leave that job?
You're a dreamer.
To do this?
You're dreaming.
You've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Who hasn't?
I've had it.
All you have to do is share an idea with somebody and they'll go, you know.
But you know what? Every great idea started as a dream.
Sure.
All right, and all of every piece of technology that we have in this room today to allow our listeners to listen to this show was somebody who turned to someone else and said, you know, I got an idea for this thing called a computer, or I got an idea for this thing called a microphone. What if we could allow people to speak in one place and have it come out somewhere else, right?
That'd be
all
crazy.
Of these things, and everyone's like, oh, that's witchcraft, or that's crazy, or you've got a good job. What are you going to do? Nobody makes money in that kind of business, and all that stuff.
Right.
But you know what? You have to believe in yourself so much so that you just say, okay, and you know, to me, I hate to use this term, but I look at people like that as almost like a personal cancer.
Sure.
And unfortunately, I have to cut those people out, just like a surgeon.
Yeah.
Because you know what?
You do, really do.
You know, it's crazy. I've started several businesses that have been very, very successful, and a couple that weren't. But when I think back, right, could you imagine if you were working, say, at IBM or Apple? Let's just use something today, right? Apple, right? Could you imagine, I have a conversation and you say to me, oh, that's crazy. What a silly idea. You know, oh, that's a this or that does this, or nobody makes money in that kind of business. I mean, could you imagine me turning to you and going, are you kidding me? You work for Apple? What are you, insane?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why would I ever knock your position or your job? But people, birds of a feather. Here's what I've learned over the years, right? Birds of a feather. We tend to be, you've heard me say this 100 times on this show, if not more. We are the sum total of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Right? So
okay.
Typically, you are in your socioeconomic strata of people, that sphere of people who are very in your socioeconomic level. So if you're making, say, $50,000 a year, you're living in a neighborhood of homes that reflect that type of income, people driving cars that reflect that level of income, then if all of a sudden you start to make $150,000 a year, this is what you hear, because I've heard it.
Yeah.
Oh, he changed.
Yeah.
He changed. I didn't change. I just made a choice.
Sure.
You know what? I'd like to believe I'm still the same nice guy I was 30 years ago, and those people who know me today would say, nicest guy I ever met.
Sure.
No, they really do, George. Don't look
at
me like that.
All right, I believe you. I'll take your word for it. I'm ready to
you know what? I deal honestly. I deal ethically. I treat people with respect, and I treat people the way I want to be treated. And so
well, that's great.
But I've heard it over and over again, not just for myself, from other people I've mentored, other people I've coached and worked with at the Gordon Partnership Group, where, all of a sudden I think what happens is that the other 4 in your circle of 5,
mm-hmm.
they look at their own situation, their own circumstance, and maybe they start to feel a little inadequate. Which is not
Sure.
justifiable. It's not that important,
right?
But that's they start to go, oh well, he got lucky, right time,
they have
right
to make
place.
excuses for themselves why they're not doing what you're doing. They have to rationalize.
You know what I love
their
about you,
position.
George?
My hair.
No, well,
okay.
I was going to say that you pay attention.
Well, yeah.
And, it's nice to know that my producer's actually, part of the show.
Well, this is what I love about my business. Businesses are very nuanced, but no, what I love is doing radio shows, and certainly I'm going to pay attention while I'm doing what I enjoy doing on here. But by the way, I have changed. I just want to let you know that I get that from people that say that you've changed, and I go, you're right, and it's not because I'm 50, so people automatically go midlife crisis. They throw that at you. I go, it's not a midlife crisis. It's a mid-course correction. The crisis
great.
Is what was going on that I have just corrected for. That's why you're seeing changes. I'm stopping doing the bad things, stopping the bad behavior, the bad habits, and moving on to good behavior and good habits.
You know, course correction is so important. And,
Sure.
And those who are truly most successful tend to step back every now and then and go, okay. And they look at the things that are positive, look at the things that haven't been so positive, and they go, okay, how can I fix these over here?
Here in South Florida, I like to use nautical analogies. I have a sailing history in my youth, and you check your charts. When you see that you're not heading where you want to go, you take out the chart and you adjust your course to compensate and accommodate.
Well, all good.
Sure.
All good. And, you know, it's so important that we kind of check our ego, not just check the charts.
Yeah, I don't have an ego. I don't know what you're talking about.
But we check our egos a little bit, and we just go, okay, you know, what could I do better? You know, by the way, I started doing something recently. A couple of years ago, actually the day before Lori and I left to get married, and we were getting on the airplane to fly out to Hawaii, a mentor of mine who is now, I want to say, I think 95. I think we stopped counting at like 39. So I'm guessing.
Okay.
But anyway, she's an amazing woman. I mean, I can only imagine what she was like when she was 50 because she's like off the charts at 95. I mean, I get these emails that are like these ranting and raving. I listened to your show today and, you know, it was great, but this.
Oh, good.
Right?
But that's good.
I read your email. Are you kidding me? Right? No, but I love her. And sometimes we argue. I go, well, this is why I did this. And this is my audience. And you're a little out of touch. And she'll say, okay, maybe. But, you know, hello, certain things don't change. But anyway, with that said, and I refer to her as my grandma. So, Grandma, I love you. And thank you for everything you do to make my life better and my job better, even when you torque me a little bit with some of your comments. How was that?
That was great.
But she said to us, the greatest gift you can give each other, Lori and I, as a wedding gift, is I want you to go to a store like an office supply store.
Sure.
See, I don't mention names because they're not paying for a spot.
That's right.
I almost did.
Yeah.
And so we got these two little like the old exam notebooks, like the marble, sort of black and white marble notebooks that don't have rings, they're kind of sewn together. And she said every day, just write something down. And not a whole page, just like one thing that happened that day, good, bad, or indifferent, just something about that day. And then on your first anniversary, trade books. And it was amazing. We did that. And I can't say we did it every day because we get sidetracked. And it was in the beginning we did a lot. And even now we're 2.5 years into this marriage and we still write in our books. But the other thing I started to do was sort of keep like a gratitude version of that book. And so what I realized is that sometimes when you have a goal and your goal, whether it's business related or whatever, and maybe you don't quite get there or something derails that goal or who knows what, but you'd be shocked if you go back like a month or 2 months or 3 months and you look at all of the little small things that happened during those 3 months that weren't major events, but when you add them all up, they were unbelievable blessings in your life. And you go, wow, I kind of forgot about that one. Or I forgot about this. Or it could be little things like just being invited to this event with Nick, right? Wow, how great was that, right? Because I told somebody 6 months ago or 8 months ago, oh, yeah, you know, I'm starting this radio show and, you know, I'm just telling everybody there's 5 people I'd really love to have as guests, like my top 5. Doesn't mean I don't want other guests. And she's like, oh, you know, he comes to visit our church sometime. And I said, oh, well, it'd be great. You know, if he's ever in town, I'd love to know. That was it. And then all of a sudden, like 6 months later, not only did I get to sit twice with him, right?
Right.
But then as I'm talking to him the first night, I explained to him a little bit about what we're doing in the show. And he said, yeah, I'd love to be on your show. Check, baby, right?
Right.
So little blessings,
great.
but if you go back and look at the book, right, it's all because, you know, maybe that day in my book I might have written, had a nice visit with a really great neighbor, great kids, husband and wife, really special family. Mentioned I was looking for Nick, and she said, oh, sometimes he comes to our church. Right, boom, little blessings. Anyway, there's no way I'm going to get to all my business events
sequel.
today, but we'll continue this. Let's just leave the last maybe this last portion on plan. Plan everything. If you're going to be in a business, things don't just happen by accident. All right, you need to plan every aspect of your business.
By the way, I'm going to disagree with you. Things do happen by accident. That's not necessarily a good thing. That's
okay, that's true. but I would say this, right? The majority of people take more time to plan their next vacation.
If you plan, then what you want to happen, will happen.
Well, all I'm saying is that people take months to plan a vacation.
Sure.
And yet they take hours to launch their next business.
That's a good idea. You're absolutely right.
So planning every aspect of your business is not only a must, but it builds the habits that business owners need to develop to implement and maintain. And the act of business planning is literally so critical because it requires you to analyze every business situation. You research, you compile data. Don't overanalyze.
Well, that's a lot of work, man.
I know. Yeah, well.
What, you want me to work at my business? Come on.
Yeah, a little bit. But all that information and that course correction that you were talking about allows you the opportunity to understand the direction of which your business has to go. You could have SoFlo Radio or George 1.0. But then your clients, your listeners are calling in going, we would really love this. And you start to hear the same thing over and over again. And you recognize that maybe George 2.0 or SoFlo 2.0 needs to have that which the listeners who are paying the bills, in essence, have requested. So, you kind of take that course correction, but you wouldn't know unless you had planned everything, knew what you were doing.
Well, yeah, I know the importance of planning from not planning. And I know what can happen when you don't plan. So that is absolutely right. I don't think you can make too many plans.
Let me give you one more, and that is to manage your money wisely. Because we talk about this a lot, you and I.
Boy, you're laying a lot on me, man. You're expecting a lot from me.
Well, just be glad I'm only on page 1.
Plan and manage my money.
But truthfully, the lifeblood of your business and any enterprise has got to be cash flow. Cash in, cash out. You need it whether it's to buy inventory. In your case, whether it's new computers or software or maybe something new for the studio, or to pay for services to promote or market your business, repair, replace any kind of tools or equipment. Pay yourself. Wow, that's a novel thought, right?
And I get to make money at this?
You get to pay yourself so you can continue to actually do the work you love. So business owners have to become very, very wise money managers, so to say, and to ensure that the cash keeps flowing and those bills do get paid. So I'd like to say that there are two aspects to what I would consider like good money management. One, the money that you receive from clients in exchange for your goods and services that you provide, that's your income, and the money that you spend on anything, inventory, wages, other items required to keep your business kind of rocking and rolling because you're in the music business and the radio business, is your expenses. So obviously you want your income to outperform your expenses, and so while that sounds logical, it doesn't always happen that way.
Not if you don't plan.
And by the way, this is what we talked about the first show. Here, I'm just going to end on 5 tips. Ask for the sale. Ask for the sale.
Brilliant.
I'm going to tell you that 50% of the time, if you don't, first 100% of the time, if you don't ask, you don't get. But 50% of the time, if you ask, you're going to get. People want to buy.
Sure.
They want to buy from you, George. They want to be sponsors on this show. They want to work with you, but they don't know what it is that they need to do. So if you sit there and give them a great opportunity and go, we have this great station.
Play the law of averages.
And then you go, okay. And then you go, so what do you think? And they go, I don't know what to think because you didn't tell me what I'm supposed to think. But if you said to them, George, you said, Steve, you know what? So here's how it works. You can get this number of spots on this many shows. This is what it's going to cost you. You can do this, this, or this. Which would you prefer? Do you want to be on this show, that show, or how do you want to do it? Do you want us to record the show, the commercial for you, or do you want to do your own? Wow. Okay, I think I'll take this number of spots and you record it for me. Until next week, my name is Steve Gordon. You've been listening to CEOmanship. You can find us on Facebook at GordonPartnership.com, CEOmanship.com. You can also find us on iTunes, on the podcast library. Search for CEOmanship and Steve Gordon. I can't wait to come back next Monday. We'll continue this. Thank you, Roy Moore, Nick Vujicic, and we're looking forward to it. Have a great day. CEOmanship on SoFloRadio.com.
Streaming live from the beautiful city of Hollywood, Florida, USA. This is SoFloRadio.com.